Each year, under the cover of darkness near Yellowstone's north entrance, a train is said to arrive on the tracks that no longer exist. Witnesses describe the distant whistle of a steam locomotive, the hiss of escaping steam, and the heavy scent of burning coal. Yet, Cinnabar, the town it stops for, has been gone for more than 120 years. In this episode of Pioneers of Outlaw Country, we travel back to the vanished railroad town of Cinnabar, once the bustling gateway to Yellowstone National Park. Born overnight as a frontier depot and abandoned just as quickly, Cinnabar was a place of wild saloons, hurried fortunes, presidential boredom, and a railroad that determined its fate. The tracks moved on, the town vanished. But some say the train never did. The Pioneers of Outlaw Country, cowboys, lawmen, and outlaws, to the businessmen and women who all helped shape Wyoming. Here are their stories. Ghost Town of Yellowstone.
Each year, a train is said to pull up to the Cinnabar Depot at the north entrance of Yellowstone National Park. However, Cinnabar was abandoned over 120 years ago, and even the train tracks have long been pulled up. Welcome to Pioneers of Outlaw Country, Wyoming's history. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the Cowboy State's haunted history. I am Jackie Dorothy, historian and author, pleased to be taking this train ride with you back into time. This series of haunted history has been brought to you by Rooted in Legacy, where we help you record, write, and preserve your life story, memoir, and family history, so your story is never lost. A far-off whistle of a steam locomotive could be heard as it approached the Cinnabar Depot at the northern entrance of Yellowstone National Park. This train arrives at Cinnabar just about the same time every year, according to Shelley LaRose in her book, Yellowstone Ghost Stories. She describes it as coal-black in color and said that it stops to let out a big burst of steam. It does not have an engineer, nor does it carry a conductor. Shelley said that no passengers would be disembarking, but the ghost train will stop. As it does, clouds have been known to suddenly cover the moon, and the temperature instantly drops. The air filled with the familiar smell of oily, musty, burning coal. Then, as the old engine discharges its final blast of steam into the night, the tired old ghost train slowly fades in an ebony-shrouded mist and dissipates into the midnight air. There is no depot anymore in Cinnabar, and the only remnants of the train tracks are scars. The tracks the ghost train followed have been pulled up years ago. The town of Cinnabar has also disappeared, a true ghost town that has only left behind indents in the ground and buried trash from the past inhabitants. No train has pulled up to the Cinnabar Depot for over 120 years, yet Shelley said that the locomotive is spotted once a year pulling into town. The wild community of Cinnabar, population 250, had sprung up nearly overnight in 1883 as a temporary end-of-line station of the first railroad service to Yellowstone National Park. For 20 years, Cinnabar was the primary gateway to the park, according to historian Robert V. Goss. Buckskin Jim Cutler had refused the railroad access through his land, and the railroad spur ended at Cinnabar instead of Gardner, Montana, which was the desired destination. Cinnabar quickly grew up around the depot and provided basic visitor services, according to Voss. The 1883 Butte Miner announced, "The Yellowstone National Park branch of the Northern Pacific Railroad is now completed to Cinnabar, 51 miles south of Livingston, and will be open for business on September 1st, after which time parties can go directly to the park without staging." The locomotive would chug into the depot, and the townfolk would quickly gather when its distant whistle could be heard, summoning them to the train station and the arriving tourist. Cinnabar, Montana was just over the border from Wyoming and was the end of the line for the Northern Pacific Railroad. Tourists heading to Yellowstone National Park would then transfer to horse-drawn coaches ran by Hugo Hoppe. These stage lines could take them directly into the park. However, there were those who were ready to stretch their legs after the long train ride. These tourists were eager to explore Cinnabar, and enterprising businessmen were there to accommodate their every need. Yellowstone stage driver Al Wilkins reminisced about his time in Cinnabar in 1933.
It was a lively place. Yeah, a man could get anything from a black eye to a horse race.
By 1885, Joe Kinney operated 2 or 3 saloons in Cinnabar and ran a boarding house. Billy Hall and the Hefferland brothers opened thriving stores. Other businesses, including the post office, stood proud along the dusty road that led through Cinnabar. Wilkins said that these were wild and woolly days with little law and less order. He said that horse racing was a common Sunday amusement, and sometimes the races resulted in a drunk being killed. No one thought much about it in this wild town. When an accident happened, the body was buried and the program went on. A man could get quick action on his money in Cinnabar, whether in a stud poker game, a foot race, or a horse race. The sky was the limit. I will say that not everyone found Cinnabar to be exciting. For 16 days, Cinnabar became known as the Western White House for President Theodore Roosevelt. The president had arrived at the Yellowstone National Park to dedicate the Grand Arch at the park's north entrance on April 3, 1903. The accommodations had not yet been completed at Gardner as planned, so Roosevelt and his party set up camp at Cinnabar until their departure on April 24th. The 1903 The Butte Daily Post described the scene. Cinnabar, near the entrance to the Yellowstone National Park, the present seat of the executive offices of the nation, isn't an attractive place. It has no public parks, no theaters, no extensive society, no charming homes, no magnificent hotel. What Cinnabar did have in 1903 was a depot, a few homes, a store, a stable, 2 saloons, and a bunch of exceedingly bored gentlemen from Washington, D.C. The president's special train stood on a siding near the depot, and in it his bunch of men lived, ate, drank, and smoked. They wondered what on earth to do, according to the Post. These men, waiting for the president as he toured Yellowstone, sat around all day and deplored in fervid language the fate which kept them tied up at a place like Cinnabar. They were not interested in the bare hills or the river nearby. The Post said that they looked down at the river toward Horror, and the Devil's Slide met their eyes, but the devil refused to slide for their edification. Now and again, some miners came over from Horror and whooped things up a little at one of the 2 saloons, but they refused to go to the length of fighting or doing anything actually exciting for the entertainment of Roosevelt's men. The press were just as bored as the president's entourage. It is said in the historical records that an official of the Associated Press voiced his complaints quite loudly.
Well, this blooming town will be wiped off the map when we leave.
His words were prophetic. 9 days after the president boarded his official train and left Cinnabar, the town was abandoned. In 1902, the land dispute with Buckskin Jim Cutler had been finally settled after 2 decades of litigation. This meant that the rail line could be continued on to Gardner as originally planned. This move rang the death knell of the town of Cinnabar, and the small community quickly faded away after that time. The once bustling town turned into a ghost town, according to historian Goss. Cinnabar was removed as a station stop on May 3, 1903, and the post office was closed shortly after, on June 15th. The railroad attempted to change the name of Gardner to Cinnabar in order to maintain the existing 20-year legacy of that station name. However, the proud residents of Gardner soundly defeated the name change, and Cinnabar's legacy promptly crumbled. Many of the Cinnabar buildings were moved into Gardner, while others were transported to Hoare. The rail depot was loaded onto a flat car and hauled into Gardner, where it was used as the freight depot. The only remaining evidence of the site today are some depressions in the ground, a few foundation stones, and broken pieces of glass and ceramics scattered over the flats, according to historian Goss. Author Shelley LaRosse said there is one lasting reminder of Cinnabar: the ghost train that whistles as it approaches the long-gone depot over tracks that no longer exist. Thank you for taking this history trip to a ghost town that some say still has a voice: the whistle of the locomotive. As always, this has been a fun adventure exploring our Wyoming history, even if I might have strayed across the border into Montana. This is Jackie Dorothy, looking forward to the next history adventure on Pioneers of Outlaw Country, Wyoming's history. This series of haunted stories has been brought to you by Rooted in Legacy. We all have stories worth telling, tales of family, grit, love, and resilience. But too often, those stories fade away because they were never written down. That's where I come in. At Rooted in Legacy, I help you preserve your life story, or your loved ones, so it will not be forgotten. Together, we'll turn memories into a lasting legacy that future generations can hold on to. If you've been wanting to preserve those family stories but didn't know where to start, I'd love to help. My website is legendrockmedia.com, or just follow the link in the show notes to schedule a free call with me, personally. Rooted in Legacy, because every story deserves to be told. This has been a production of Legend Rock Media.